Hi everyone, it's Daisy McCarty, founder of Brand Message Clarity. I want to talk today about jargon and those few times when you should actually use jargon and buzzwords when you communicate with your target market. So one of the main reasons people dislike jargon is that other people use it to make themselves look smart and superior. Companies often use it to unnecessarily mystify what they're doing so that they can charge higher prices for it. But there are times when people embrace, appreciate, and actually benefit from specialized language. So there are three times when it makes sense to use it. And the first one is obviously when it's the language that your customers are accustomed to using. So every industry has its own specialized terminology. And if you're marketing the industry, you should absolutely know and use it. It helps communicate that you understand what they're doing and how they're doing it and how their business works. For example, I had a client a couple of weeks ago and I had used the word renovate in one of their pieces of messaging. And they said, actually, our customers use the term refurbish. We don't say renovate. So we needed to make adjustments to make sure we were using the language that their customer base uses. Another example is language that people use to create a sense of tribe or community. So there are certain buzzwords that are very impactful in different industries. For example, if I say the word growth hacking, you know I'm talking to startups because that's a buzzword that they've really grown to enjoy and they resonate with it and it gets them excited. So using the language of your target market always makes sense for building rapport and trust and showing that you understand their industry, and it makes communication easier instead of more complicated. But what if you're introducing your customer base to your language? It's usually best to use plain layperson terminology, but there are times when you do need to educate them about new terminology and new words. So in the first situation, that would be to clarify and refine an existing concept. So there might be a word that means exactly what you're trying to communicate, and it gives you a shorthand and more precise way to communicate it. For example, it might name something that we haven't named before, but can instantly recognize once it's defined. So for example, in German, there's a word called Schadenfreude, which you've probably all heard at this point, and which I may not be pronouncing correctly. But Schadenfreude is the sense of gleeful gloating at the misfortune of another person. So it's this whole concept that's shrunk down into one word that explains it all. And once people hear it, they're like, oh yeah, I recognize that. And when you give people a word to name something they haven't named before, it's actually a pleasant experience. It gives them a little aha moment, like learning a new vocabulary word does for a lot of people. The other time that you may need to use specialized jargon or new terminology is if you're describing a concept that is actually new and one that can't readily be presented using existing words, either because it's not accurate or because there are other associations with those words that could create some confusion. For example, back in the early 90s, a man named Donald Norman coined the term user experience. And he was using it to describe and define an emerging phenomenon that needed further study and refinement. In 2008, the word DevOps was created to talk about a solution for a very real problem with development and operations not working well together. Developers would just throw stuff over the wall to the operations team. There was a big disconnect there. So there was a new term that was described for a resolution to a significant problem. And new terminology is often used to take something fuzzy and bring it into focus so it can be examined, understood, and improved. So those are three times that you may want to actually use jargon and specialized language when you're communicating with clients. That is your moment of clarity for today. If you would like to talk to me about better ways to communicate with your customers, you can reach me here on LinkedIn. I look forward to speaking with you. Have a successful and inspired day.